Good evening, Michael.
Hello, Shawn.
You were coming
So,
from a distant location tonight.
yes, it's different to be over the web again.
Yes, yes, and the podcast that was supposed to be yesterday that's here. Well, since that's the most pressing topic, maybe we'll just hit that first, and then get into all the other things while we let people trickle in. So first and foremost, was not a tech issue per se from our specific end. Although it only took me 6.5 hours to get to that conclusion. So long story short, because it's like literally a 6 hour story, um, I turned the stream off on Sunday or Saturday, sorry, and left it alone Sunday and Monday, and came to log in on Tuesday afternoon. I went to attach to Ecamm as I always do and have for the last nearly 200 episodes. It just said my internet connection was out. Um, so I thought, okay, cool. Internet must be down or there's some issue. So I just did standard unplug, plug in, test my other computer. And when I plugged in my other computer, it had internet, but Ecamm said the same thing. So basically, it wasn't recognizing Ecamm for whatever reason. So what do you do when things don't work? You go to the help desk. And so I punched in ecamm.com, and that would not work on my computer. And so I tried on the other computer, didn't work. I tried on my phone, didn't work. Tried on my iPad, didn't work. So getting to Ecamm was difficult since it's 100% online support. So I used Facebook Messenger because that worked, and all other websites, by the way, on every computer and device worked. The internet worked entirely, but for some reason I couldn't get the site. So then I thought, okay, it must be an Ecamm issue. So I figured out that it wasn't an Ecamm issue, and I reached them through email. So I spent about 3 hours back and forth with them, testing literally everything and learning all about IP addresses and DNSs and all the things. And lo and behold, Michael and I, about, I don't know, maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock, Michael, did a
Something like that.
few tests, punched in a new DNS, figured out that it was a DNS issue, got a workaround that we thought would work for tonight, but by that time it was literally showtime and I was tired. Um, Spent the next 2 hours on the phone with the internet provider. They did all their tests. They could not get any resolution. I told them how I got there, how it worked, blah, blah, blah. They're going to send me a new modem. We think it's that. And that's where we're at. So none of our tech here, but it just took me a long time to get to that. And yeah, it was super frustrating. But like I said, I learned something and got here. So it was not Michael unplugging things on the way out, although I had to keep a close eye on him to not do that. So um,
I in no way dropped a virus on your modem when I connected my laptop to it. That absolutely did not happen.
that's
Just
yeah,
to clarify.
awesome. No, that's so really just a long thing. So it wasn't a tech issue, wasn't cameras, wasn't computers or anything like that. I know because I went through all of that in my process of elimination to get to the modem. So the real frustrating part was I have a PC that is upstairs that I use for work. I don't use it for anything here, but I could get Ecamm to work on that, and that was the most tricky and frustrating part. Not Ecamm the program, but Ecamm the website. So yeah. Anyways, we think we have a solution. The new modem will be ordered and should be here. I would assume mid next week. We'll flop that over, and right now the solution that we have is basically it would be a long-term solution if required, but we're just going to switch the modem out and hope that fixes the problem at the source here. So yeah. So anyway, that's what happened. And no, Striker, not everything caught fire, although it was pretty close to getting burnt down. But unrelated, I think there would be a frustration burn. So, hello, Patrick, checking in from Belgium. So that is what happened yesterday. So here we are today doing the recap episode, and this really will largely be a recap. So if you were here for the whole weekend, you're going to hear a lot of what happened. But if you missed out, that's fine. If you want to hang out with us anyways, because we appreciate that. That'll be cool. We're going to talk just briefly a little bit about some other things going on in Legion, and then get to the roundtable. We are on strict 90-minute timer. Only reason being, I wanted to do the recap episode yesterday because my wife and child have been away for six-ish weeks. They returned this morning, but I said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do that because I'm big on commitments. So I did say also that I'd be 90 minutes, no more. So the timer is started at the bottom, and we will stick to that time. So whatever we have left for roundtable is great. Um, whatever we don't, that's fine. That just means Ryan gets to say less at the end of the show. So without further ado, Michael, I'll give you. Michael's going to have a chance here to say all the things that he happened to see on the weekend and experience. But what we're going to do tonight, just cover off again. This will be just a recap. The games that were, the fun that we had, and all the Legion chat that we did. So that'll be the bulk of the topic. Of course, we want to talk about Friday night fights, although a small caveat reminder, there will be no Friday night fight this week. Both Anthony and Jace are out of town, and I told my wife that I would take Friday off, only because I'm going to an event on Saturday as well. So brownie points in the jar on Friday, cash in on Saturday. I don't like to save; I just burn them right away. So that is happening there. Tentative for the 12th. Both guys are also still busy there, but I'm going to try to recruit a couple folks to come out for that. So that's the Friday night fight news. Also, a reminder that the league sign up ends on the 5th, whatever day the 5th is. So if you want to get signed up for round 5, and if you aren't and you haven't tried the league, get in there. Go sign up for a round. It's super, super fun. And on that topic, signing up for the league, we will have the reveal show on Tuesday next week. So part of next week's show, obviously, will be a Gen Con recap, all the things that happened there. But also, it'll be the league, the launch episode, I should say, for round 5. So you get the pairings and see who you're facing off against in that round. So seems, as Stan has said, there's a little bit of a calm before the storm right now on the boards are pretty quiet. Everyone's hush-hush about round 5 lists. So I look forward to
on that
revealing
topic, though, I will say a sincere thank you to everybody that voted for Barks to eliminate. So I appreciate
tight.
that.
I think it was Barks Flutters. I think maybe one vote different,
One
13
one
12
vote.
or something like that, 12 11 or
Yeah,
something.
I thought it was 12-11.
It could have been 12 11 because
So
I think one person came in with what was the other option in there? Do they have, what's their other support option that they have? Do they have another one?
ATRT.
Oh, ATRT. I believe there was one ATRT vote,
Yep.
and that was probably
Yep.
somebody in Fluttercraft just tossing a vote
Yep.
somewhere else. Michael.
So I appreciate that vote also.
Yes. So so tight one there. It was pretty tight on the spider one too. I think it was like 24-1 or something, or 23-2 or something. Yeah, it was not even remotely close. But yeah, so we'll talk about that. No, it wasn't the ISP, because that's a heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're correct, Andrew. It's a heavy. So yeah, so that'll be the show. So let's jump over real quick here to the command deck. So Michael, let's kick off, because we'll get into all the fights that we had, and there's 5 really to recap.
Yep.
But why don't you talk a little bit about, I know you shared some on the launch show, but why don't you pick it up from the launch show, arriving here, and then your weekend, and then getting home successfully. So, and by the way, that is not Michael's prison cell. He did get to a home, so that's not like a green screen background for his prison cell that he landed himself in.
Yeah, no, on the way home, they didn't ask me who I was visiting, so I got through customs quick and okay. And also, he admired my minis there as well, so that was good. But yeah, getting to the studio. So studio looks great on the cast. I've seen it there before, but being there in person, I was really impressed with everything there. I mean, believe it or not, the fidelity is much better in person than over a stream. So it was great to see. Also, a surprise, I think one of the first comments I made to Shawn was the amount of space that there isn't. It's a big enough room for everything he's doing, but it looks a lot bigger on stream than it does in person. So I was surprised how crammed in and how much use he made of the space he has. That was impressive.
I think we're about 18 by 14, I think, is the space that I've commandeered. But I will tell you, Michael, you think we actually expanded that by 6 feet on the long side. So it used to be really like a 12 by 14 space. So we used to do a lot that much with less. So I think you say it's big, it looks smaller than it is, and the guys and me here are like, wow, we have all this room to stand now instead of having to be stationary. So yeah. And to be fair, I've already commandeered, and Michael can attest to, about 3/4 of the basement is already studio space. So really, it's my wife who's crammed into a corner now at this point. So.
Yep. Yeah, I think the other thing was we had planned on doing a hobby stream at some point, but I got there and unloaded my car and realized I left my box of hobby supplies at home, which made that difficult. So we just played a couple more games, which was all right too.
We just filled all the time. We did do a little bit of hobbying, assembly here and there, and
Yep.
We did a lot
Well,
of
that was mostly as we were prepping for games. Oh wait, we
yeah,
need 3 more models. Go glue them
yeah,
together quick.
exactly. Yeah, just trying to assemble things. So, but it
So
was fun. We got a lot of games, and we're going to talk about the 5 that we had on stream. But Michael and I played another three, three not on stream. Um, 4.
for 3 or 4, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, we
Something
played
like
extra. So, and then in addition, to eating late, walking the dog. Michael learned my routine. It's basically eat late, walk dogs around midnight, and then stay up for about 2 to 3 hours to watch baseball, and then rinse and repeat. So,
Yep.
Michael almost kept pace. He almost kept pace. So,
No.
uh, but yeah, skip the baseball, and yeah, there was, and it slept in a little bit longer than me. But I was always up
Yeah.
prepping streams in the morning. So, but it was a
I
good
need more than
weekend.
4 hours of sleep.
That's fine. It's fine. So,
Yeah.
but it was a good
Yep.
weekend. I had a ton of fun getting the games in, and the hobby bite was strong. I even went to as far to play Anthony on Sunday just for another funsy TTS game. So, and
Nice.
Michael, if you think I bullied you at all with crits, I feel bad for poor Anthony. It wasn't even remotely possible for me not to roll 2 to 3 crits on a roll. It was so gross. Um,
Yep.
the TTS dice roller was exceptionally kind to me. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I did on Sunday. So, yeah, so let's get into all the things. I'll rip through the fun stuff here, and then we'll get back. And like I said, we're going to reserve as much roundtable time as possible for you guys because I think that'll be fun. Michael and I lived it all, so we'd love to hear from you guys and see what's going on in your hobby world. So, well, it's great. We got some music on the scene now too. Let me just apparently we want that. Let me just kill that. There we go. If you are looking for us on the social medias, you guys can find us on Friday Night Fights on the Facebook. You can go check out the Patreon. Patreon's been having a nice little uptick as of late, which is great. I want to thank you for that. I also want to draw a couple points of attention to that. Specifically, one thing I went and dropped a couple more hobby tutorials, free tutorials, by the way, into the hobby section. So if you want to go see that, there's one on rock castings. And then I have another one that I put in there. I think I put one in on working with Sculptamold and making a full base. So it's a sand base blended with tufts, blended with a few other materials. So if you're looking to kind of do some transitional elements from a flat ground into a more lush sort of organic surface, whether you're using the materials I did or not, the techniques apply. So go have a look at that. It's about an hour worth of tutorials. I think one's around 22 minutes and one's about 40 some odd. So go have a look. They're completely free. That's just some of the content that's on there. They're a bit old at this point, but that's what I do. I just release them for free. So if you want the content more fresh, you can go to the Patreon. If you don't want to support or you don't have the funds or whatever, doesn't matter. I'm giving you them all free anyway. But it's just nice if you can help us out on the front end so that you can benefit at that time. But we'll support you on the back end as we always do. You can always find us on Twitter and the Instagrams at Legion_FNF. So there's that. Um, apparently, we got music on every scene tonight. Jumping over, which is great. The ambiance is great. So go check it out. It's alecproductions.com if you're looking for that music. I think I get a question every week. So it's also in the description as well, so you can follow there. But yeah, the card sleeves, there's 14 spots left. And by when I say 14 spots left, I mean we have 14 sets left. We ordered 50 sets. So patrons got them. All the folks that are working in studio or with us, we don't pay our guys. I'm not gonna say that. I also don't get paid. But we try to give as many promos as possible. I think Michael went away with some extra swag this weekend, and people that participate in the studio or help us out, we do that. But I have 14 sets left, and that is it. By the way, if you were a patron for the June and July, all of your card sleeves have shipped, including all the prizes from the weekend. And Michael, I think I totaled it up with the Patreon sleeves and the prizes. I think I sent out 37 packages out into the regions.
Nice.
We gave a lot of stuff away, and when you're giving away, it's so easy and free and just flows off the tongue. When you have to go stuff envelopes, write a little, get a little letter prepped, pack them, mail them, write addresses, and go deliver them, it seems so much more work. So, but we like doing it, so that's what we did. So they are all out in the regions, and so like I said, if you want to go sign up on the tier 3, there's 14 spaces left. It taps out at that, so you'll know if you're in there, if you got a space or not. And when you're in there it'll be August and September for you if you join now. Then as soon as that rolls over, I put them in the mail for you, and you have that. In addition, you get all that other stuff. So this is just a perk on top of it. It's not a way to sell you these card sleeves. We don't sell anything. It's just an added perk that happens on occasion, and this will be our first one that we're doing. So there is that. And yeah, we want to thank a few sponsors. All right, we're just going to rip through all the music on all the streams tonight. I don't know what's going on with that, but I think that might have been a refresh yesterday that in my haste to solve problems. But we want to thank we want to thank Deep Cut Studios for the help. You guys seen the mats out this weekend, which was great. Michael got a chance to play on them, so he can attest their top quality. They're really robust mats.
Absolutely.
Actually. And they look super, super great. So we also want to thank, I'm just going to speak over all the music here, LegionTerrain.com. We featured a ton of their stuff this weekend. Great pre-paints are amazing. So when you see them on our screen, that is exactly how they arrive too if you go to the painted option, so go check them out. We want to thank Dice Time. I want to give a special shout out to... oops, I think I might be muted here. No, I'm not. Shout out to Paul and Ben, who are actually at Gen Con right now. So I think they're going to do a bunch of photos, maybe do a bit of video content and get that out to us. So I want to thank them. They are boots on the ground this weekend. And go give them a listen. There's a bunch of new uploads on the YouTube channel. I want to thank Michael for someoftheodds.net. We did some calculations both on the fly afterwards. Michael went away, woke up in the morning. He's like, listen, I went to bed last night and I wanted to calculate these odds. He shows me the math on it and what was the expected outcome of Fluttercrafts on D1s, because we didn't get to see that on the screen. But then
the expected outcome of that was between 2 and 3, and I think I was doing between 0 and 1. So we were a little ways off.
Sometimes the dice odds are not really the odds. So sometimes you just don't want to know the odds. So that should be tellmetheodds.net question mark at the end of that if you can fix that, Michael. Sometimes you just don't.
Well, there's a never tell me the odds, which is every other site.
That's correct. That's correct. Just speaking briefly about, and I appreciate those 11 thumbs up, by the way. Just briefly speaking about Patreon, I don't want to waylay this too much, but I want to just say that one of the things is will be on the Patreon side of things. So if you're any tier member, will make this available. But I'm going to do it on August 14th, which I believe is a Sunday. I'm going to do a hobby hangout. So I'm going to just be working in studio on what I'm working on that particular day. Most likely will be the wall. I'm going to be finishing up the wall this month, but I do have a customer project coming up in September as well. So if you're interested in greenery, Lord of the Rings, Hobbits, or anything that has to do with those types of techniques, if you want to start following, I'm going to be doing a full build log on that. And because I can share freely, we'll be having a lot of videos. As you guys know, a lot of the work that I do is covered by NDAs. So unfortunately, most of it doesn't make the Patreon in the specific context, but later on I do share techniques, or I can speak about projects when they become available. So this is unique. It's one of the downsides of doing things for companies, but there's obviously pluses as well. But this will be a fun project that I can share fully on Patreon, and that's why I do this stuff in the studio, so that you guys can actually see what I'm working on in my downtime. I also have the Camino project. I spoke to Michael briefly about that in terms of the layout. I think it's going to be cool. You guys will eventually see that as well. We just got to get sanding and blasting it. I don't think it's going to be that hard to get done. So I want to get some downtime in between actual projects that pay the bills. I will definitely get that up for you as well. Okay, Michael, we had a whole slew of Friday night fights, like a lot of them. Like
a whole bunch.
I think like this many. Man, that song is great, but I wish it would not appear on every scene tonight. And there's nothing I can do about that until I click off each one. But yeah, so we played 59 through 63. That's the episode. Michael has just told me pre-stream that he's like, oh, I don't know if I can remember all these things. So we will have chat to jog our memory, and then between Michael and I think we'll try to paste it together. So I think what we'll do, Michael, is just in the interest of having a face and not just talking voices here and no faces. Let's just jump back and forth between these two. We're doing great for time. So why don't we start with 59 and work our way up if that works for you?
Seems a reasonable way to go.
And that was you and I, Michael, and I was playing Empire and you were playing the CIS. So if I recall correctly, Michael, I believe that was the double bounty list versus the what we're calling the Whip It Good. The what was that? 3 pike whips and 3 magna whips
and 3 rad cannons.
Okay, yeah, perfect. All right, well, I'll let you start on 59, and you can take it away. Actually, you'll go first on 59 and 60, but go ahead. You start on 59. How did that game go? What's some highlights, I guess, if you will?
Yeah, I think this is a good one to actually talk about a couple of general themes through the weekend. Number one is we set out by letting the people in the Discord pick the lists, vote on which ones they wanted. So we didn't play maybe power lists or lists that we normally play that we're really comfortable with. And I think, at least I did, I think you did as well, from what you told me, that we had a lot of fun trying new things. Because of that, there were a lot of mistakes made in rules, interactions, forgetting keywords, all kinds of stuff. But I actually think that was a good way to get more exposure to different things in Legion. So that was good as well. Also, I think the theme that started this weekend is I don't think we had a single game where dice were average. And I mean that is an actually average, not as in our joking average that we normally say. There were some games where it was extremely high, some games where it was extremely low. I won't necessarily say which games in case people want to go check those out. But even with that, I think after we talked about it, so Shawn and I talked about every game off stream, and we always talked about plays that could be made differently from turn zero through the last turn. And I don't think we ever said, well, we did say that, hey, dice really hurt you that game, or they helped me that game, or whatever. But our talk after the game was never, oh, dice sucked. You can't learn anything from that game. It was, why did we set up here? Why did we pursue this avenue of moving through, and what options could we have made to um, maybe have a better shot in that game, dice aside. So I think there's still things to take away. There's still opportunities to learn. And I think this game kind of started that out and set the tone. All those things I talked about. Aside from that, the whips were fun. Boba is a beast when he saves. The dodge tokens on both him and Cad made them both more survivable. So that was good to see that that had that impact. And yeah, I think the bounty hunters really shined, especially Boba in that game.
Yeah, I think like playing Boba in year one, really made me the game really made me miss playing Boba, and
Yep.
I think I can speak. And now this is going to be very limited. I played two games, one off stream and one on, but I would say, Michael, and you can verify that I think Boba was very consistent between both games. Like I was able
Yep.
to use him in the similar fashion. I was able to get bounty in both times. I was able to make him survivable. One game he was near to the end, but he was able to use trickery to basically keep himself safe, pressure when he needed to force choices to not basically just go in on him. I think Cad. I was saying to Michael that both bounty hunters really were kind of a shield for each other. And so
Yep.
when they were both pressing, one became the obvious target over another, whichever Michael chose to do or whatever he thought was being more threatening at the time. And so one was almost sacrificed for the other, but in doing so, the bounty point was there. And so getting a VP by sacrificing an act is a trade I would take in every single game of Legion ever. And so that was one of the things that I had a lot of fun with. Michael mentioned about forgetting keywords. Mostly we didn't get keywords wrong. We just mostly forgot that we had keywords on
Yeah.
specific units. And I think one of the downsides of playing, and because I talk a lot about playing lists a lot and making very few changes between lists when you're testing them out. And then I went completely against that this weekend where I was like not only faction changing, but like switching out all the units. So that is just a product of me being out of my comfort zone for how I normally play. I think the difference is when I'm playing like CIS, and anyone who's played me in the games would kind of know, like I pretty much know that army inside and out, and I will do most things right. Sometimes I'll forget something or get confused, or that's just Legion's a little bit different on TTS because I find on TTS I'm spending more times remembering buttons to click and not necessarily um, what I'm trying to do. But it's a lot more difficult to switch between units than I actually thought
Yeah.
that I was going to have. Like I was like, well, man, I've played stormtroopers before, and I'm like forgetting this or forgetting that, or it's like, oh, what do they have now? Or looking at your cards and being like, I know this guy's changed, but I haven't played Vader ever, so what's changed between here? Oh, now he has compel. Oh, now he has what's he get? He gets a dodge on this card and that card. So I think just getting through the paces of the game, and I always felt more comfortable as I got to got to the end versus where I started. But I had a lot of fun
Yeah.
doing that, and um, you know, just we'll get into all the games, but yeah, the bounty list in particular was fun. Playing CAD for the first time in like kind of a real game. I think I messed around with CAD once, just testing some stuff, but it was super super fun. So that was 59. We won't tell you any of the outcomes of any of these because in the interest of that we do want you to watch them and helps out the viewership for sure. But we do appreciate that. So we'll try not to give you any specific outcomes there. So next up, Michael, let's talk about 60. I will talk. Did we play 60? You and I played 60? Oh yeah, we did.
Yes,
Yeah.
this was the
With
skirmish game with
what are,
your rebel list against a
oh
smaller version of the Fluttercraft Wookiees
oh yeah, I
on
try
the
to forget.
Kashyyyk
I
table.
try to forget this. Painful memory getting crushed. Yeah, fair enough. I thought it was gonna be you on 61. Well, I'll go first then on this one if you're cool, because you'll have to go 61 and
Yeah.
I can speak at 61 from the boost standpoint. So yeah, so this was we built these skirmish. I built this skirmish list fairly late. It was a rebel list. Wanted to try out. Interestingly enough, Michael, I played another practice game, and someone else was doing similar tactics with the captains, and so I wanted to try the captains because I hadn't tried them before, really, in terms of getting that term where you're not suppressed and get those actions. I thought that would be
Yep.
valuable, specifically against Fluttercraft, who are running you over, throwing bombs, and suppressing you all the time. So there's that. I ran with Chewy Han because I hadn't played Chewy and Han together. I've used Chewy with several others, but yeah, Chewy Han, and what else did I have on that list, Michael? I had and a squad of Wookiees, but it was an
Yep.
underpowered squad of Wookiees, and that's the first time I really haven't taken the heavy with them, and I really felt like they missed a lot, both offensively and defensively, just keeping them around. So we did play on the
Yeah.
Kashyyyk map, which was super fun. Michael got to see that for the first time. It's a cool table. It's fairly
Very.
impressive. I think you need to see that one in person to really appreciate what's all going on that. So I knew when I was unwrapping it, Michael was impressed because I could tell, and when he was like, oh, and then just like we kept taking the plastic off, he's trying to look at it and unwrap it. So there's that. Yeah, so that was super fun. Thematic, of course, which was really great. The Fluttercrafts were able to, as I Fluttercrafts on a 3x3 board are so powerful. It is like any tactic that you can possibly use on an 800 point game to delay or to set up a little bit of sort of a defilade where you're just sort of moving back or getting sort of a squeeze position on them does not exist on a skirmish table. I will tell you that right now. There was almost no way for me to hide from them, and I got run over from the get go and pretty much got steamrolled the entire time. So we flipped it and did it again. It was even worse. So there was really no tactic that I could prevent the Fluttercrafts from getting in. Coupled with the fact that there was Wookiees on the table and a Chieftain, so close, so fast, just incredible how quickly they closed on a 3x3 table. So
Yeah.
don't make friends with Wookiees if you're going to do an intro game. Leave the Fluttercrafts and Wookiees at home. But yeah, it was fun. You'll see it. I got steamrolled in the second game. You can watch the first game and see how that goes. That was probably the better of the games that we played to be in terms
Yep.
of close. So
Yep.
yeah, that was my experience,
Yeah.
Michael.
We actually played
Fluttercrafts.
3 games.
Yeah, it's true. We did.
We
Yeah,
played 2 of those off stream.
yeah.
So
Flutter on
yeah. So
Flutter
I
on
think.
skirmish.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it was exactly what Shawn said, is there's nowhere to hide from Wookiees and Flutters on a skirmish table because all they want to do is close, and on a large table you can delay that. On a skirmish table, there's nowhere to go. And also the Rebel Troopers, I think, are not bad units, but they don't have the firepower to one-shot or to significantly dent Fluttercrafts or Wookiees. They're trying to plink damage, and that cover 2 on the Fluttercrafts makes that hard to do.
No, absolutely. So yeah, that's how that one went, and we'll do the shout outs here. I got lots of people jumping in here. Bernard checking in. Stan, thanks for that comment, Stan. Um, let's jump into recap, and we're at we still got lots of time. We'll get you guys
61.
yeah. 61. So Michael played Anthony in 61 is the only. By the way, I think I got my fill of Friday night fights. I'm caught up. Jace is really the lagging behind here. So, 61. Anthony played Michael in this one. I casted, and so I will speak from the casting standpoint. But I think probably, to be honest, Michael, if I can just preface this with, I think we broke down this game the most extensively. There was a lot that
Yeah.
I think there was to take away from this game, both tactically, list wise, approach to a selection of mission and not, because you learned something about payload early on. Well,
Yep.
afterwards, but it potentially presented early on. So yeah, so go away, take it away from the game standpoint. Maybe we'll spend a little time talking about this one.
Yeah, so for anybody that goes to watch this one or watch this one and was a little bit confused, we were playing War Weary, and I know Shawn after the game asked, "How on earth was nobody panicked during this game?"
I think I asked on
And it's
stream
because,
several times too. I think I just kept
yep,
mentioning. I was like, "Why is it's war weary?"
yeah, well, you asked us afterwards, and Anthony and I both said, "Yeah, everybody was within range one," and we started having the conversation, and about 5-10 minutes into the conversation, I went, "Oh, wait a minute. This is the Separatist invasion force, and they're not allowed to use field commander." So never crossed either Anthony or my mind. Neither of us were cheating. It's just we're used to playing Separatist. Field commander's a thing, and it wasn't here. And we didn't realize it until well after the game was over. So I think this goes back to knowing your list, playing it more than once. But if you're trying new things, things happen. And as long as everybody's playing by the same rules, play it out, roll with it, have a good time. But that was a big deal, and that would have, if we had remembered that before the game, we would have chosen different objectives, missions. We would have deployed differently. We talked about that. It obviously would have had an impact on the game, on what the result of suppression. But if you watch the game and are wondering why that's happening, that's why. That said, this was the game that I rolled absolutely terrible on the Fluttercraft. Like I said, into B1s, they should do 2 to 3 damage every time. They did 0 a lot of the time and occasionally 1. But I think it was a very close game. And if you watch it all the way to the end, there was some real back and forth strategizing about how to protect the VAPs, how to pull off the VAPs, how to get everything, all the taps that needed to be done, and it came down to the very end, for the result. So I think all the mistakes, all the strategy, there were things that could have been done differently, rules we missed, but it was a well played, or it was a good game until the end. It was interesting, competitive, and came down to the wire. So I always enjoy that. If I'm going to play Legion, I'd rather it come down to the wire. So
Yeah, and I think this game here, we like I said, we talked for an extensive amount of time afterwards, and I think one of the things that um, I think when you talk Legion, you have to put out your idea, and you have to kind of bounce that back, because what
yep,
you're saying is so flavored in how you play, what units you play experience, comfort level with mission. There's so many things. So when you ask a why question, I learned this from my actual occupation, and I'm very cognizant of it. That a why question is the most interrogative question you can ask an individual. But if you ask a why question for the purposes of learning, it is less. So when you ask why somebody does something, and when you're doing this and you have these conversations, don't think that that's necessarily asked because you did something wrong. I ask a lot of why questions because I want to learn. So Anthony was playing the AAT, and he was feeling like it wasn't as successful as it could have been, and I still think he did quite well with it. Michael
yeah,
maybe can raise the point about a move, and I'm not sure if Anthony knew or didn't know, but it was tactically important and pivotal in the game. But um, when I play a certain unit, or anybody plays a certain unit, you play it a certain way and you have a plethora of success. And I've played a lot of AAT, no matter what anyone says or seen. It's the unit that I've played the most of, and I play it much differently maybe than other people. But I also have to make sure that I'm learning that. Um, when people are using it, they might be using it for a different purpose, or have a different expectation for it, or just using it in a different way. So watching and learning, oh, this is another way you could use it, or how about this, or so I'm always trying to digest that information. Same thing with like how rad cannons were used. Well, the rad cannons used in that game were different than the experience I just had in the morning when I had, or the day previous when Michael played them. The rad cannons were sinking in a lot of shots. Anthony wasn't able to really get a lot of poison tokens off. Um, Michael and I subsequently played another game where he had not rad cannons, but he had Dioxys bombs, which effectively put out the same game result, and he wasn't able to get the same result on me either. And then I worked around that. So, um, Yes, that's fair. Yes, most of my games were with models that don't exist in Legion, so i.e. vehicles. Um, so really, I took a lot from that game. I was really intently watching and trying to follow everything that was happening there, and I really enjoyed the conversation afterwards, just digesting all the things like why not go over here, why not use this approach, and why did you do this, and why did you do that. One of the questions I posed to Michael, um, and we had a previous conversation around payload, but I asked Michael, like, why did you cancel payload? And I just said jokingly, is that because you're unfamiliar with how to play the mission? And his thought was no, that wasn't why he canceled it. But one of the things that Michael was maybe not seeing or wasn't aware of, but he is now, that when you have payload come up and there's a potential that you can play hemmed in, and you are blue player, you are at a massively distinct
Yep.
advantage as blue player in payload versus red player in payload. Because just going back to payload, when you drop that cart, then you pick the piece of terrain. In hemmed in, you're in one of the two quadrants, whether you deploy there or not. You can deploy in either or equidistant between the two. But when that cart goes down, that cart is stuck there. And when you pick that piece of terrain, you can pick a piece of terrain that is very, very far away. And not only that, but it has to cut through your deployment zone. And so if you strong side deploy at the front, or you know where he is, and you almost force them to deploy at least one unit in either corner, because you do have to push the payload. And so there's a real distinct advantage. So Michael, I'm not sure what cancellations and if you used all the ones you wanted to or not, but there was a period where, and Anthony said afterwards, I'm so glad you canceled that because I was going to have to use mine to cancel that. So
Yeah.
there was conversation around turn zero. And I think at the end of the game, whatever the outcome is, going back to talk a little bit about turn zero, if you have time and your opponent is willing, I think that is one of the best things that you can do. So just find out whatever the outcome was. Was that advantageous? Did you have an advantage from turn zero? Was there a better advantage you could have gained from turn zero? Why did they choose this? Why did you choose that? And just sort of get some of the thought into the gameplay. And I think that's a really important thing. And that's something Michael and I did. Michael and I and Anthony also did following that game. And that was a really fun part of this weekend for sure. So
Yep. Yeah, I think so the other thing about that game, one of the plays that Anthony didn't mention, and I mentioned it to Shawn afterwards, was when he swung his AAT out sideways and blocked the VAP. I'm not going to say that Anthony didn't realize he did it, but that messed up a whole lot of what I was trying to do with my Wookiees. It blocked the route I was trying to take. I was going to go tap his VAP a couple of times. I had an easy path to do that. I think that was actually one of the key plays in the game that made it close at the end. I don't think it would have been nearly as close if that hadn't happened, regardless of what happened the rest of the game. Um, and then also the other thing was we talked a lot about approach with Wookiees and Fluttercraft, different ways to enter, engage, to spin around. So I'm sorry for anybody that gets in my pod the next round. I think I have a few new tricks, some things to try out at the very least. Um, we'll see what happens there, I guess. But just again, that talking gives me new ideas of things to try to evaluate, and then the more tools you have in your pocket in any given game situation, the less likely your opponent is to know what you're going to do right away.
yeah, and I think one of just to piggyback on that, I think one of the things we also talked about is a little bit of philosophy around trading up for units and whether a
Yep.
unit needs to trade points to have value or not. And I I made the point that I don't usually measure the success of units based on that. I
Yeah.
don't measure the value of an of a upgrade based on whether I used it or not. Like similarly to that premise, I would say that oftentimes it's not going to be the most valuable unit. Specifically in CIS, I say that oftentimes the B1s end up being the real heroes, surviving, capping, pushing for the objective, being bodies at 38 points to 50 points. They're certainly not the most expensive unit in the game, but in mass, they are the most valuable unit. So trading up with units like Magna Guard sometimes becomes difficult. They got to go out and kill 100 points. Oftentimes they can, but that's not the only way that I measure the success of them. Killing and trading up with spider droids is quite easy. But again, sometimes the value in them is going to be that block, that late game push, the ability to restrict units from running past you into your softer belly. Um, so there's a ton of way to determine success, and I think that conversation is something that I really enjoy having around measuring success of units and not necessarily in a straight point for point trade. And I think in my game against Anthony, just the practice game, I think that there was real value in there. his stormtroopers ended up punching out a unit of Magna Guard that only had 3 wounds left. So certainly they traded up in their points. But what that Magna Guard squad did beforehand was one shot an ISF and then moved through and did some damage to Iden, and then moved through to the stormtroopers and then finally died there. Well, I didn't trade up with that particular unit, but over the course of the turn of the game, I did. I traded almost 1-for-1 with the ISF, but that to me wouldn't have been enough to say they were successful. And in fact, they almost got one-shotted off the table there right immediately following. So that would have been actually deemed non-successful, even though I traded more points for their value. So it's just a matter of measuring success and how you determine that. But I think that conversation is amazing to have, and I think it's a really great way to look at Legion and approach Legion in terms of how successful can your army be, and what are your actual corner pieces. Sometimes they're not your 200-point units. So, all right, let's cruise through here. We still got 53 minutes, doing well on time. Let's move into game 62. 62. Michael and I played. Oh yeah. So much like the Fluttercraft skirmish was a little bit of a landslide, this one might have been equally on par there, not to give the conclusion away, but I played clones for the first time in a real long time. I've only ever played clones in skirmish and never 800 points. I guess I did some practice. That's not inaccurate. I did some practice with clones, but yeah, I played Padme and Rex in this one, and 5s in a unit, and it was a 5v5 act, I think, Michael, if I remember the game correctly. We did play on the Coach and Industries table, so another really fun skirmish table, really thematic in terms of an industrial look. My dice were on fire, like straight fire. And yeah, Michael was playing Grievous, who generally does fairly well on a skirmish table. I think he's another unit that gets a little bit of a buff on that tight space. Michael having multiple scale units, you would think on that table would be fantastic. While they were fast,
you would think.
Yep, they were. Some of them were fast leaving the table too, as fast as they were coming across. So yeah, that game was fun. I think a couple points. So let me back up for a second, Michael, because I think we'll have 2 equal gripes that we can share when we get into points in Legion that we think we can change. And agree or disagree with me. But one thing I think we had a conversation extensively was about how I think Fluttercraft's chucking bombs into melee and not hitting your own units is something I'd love to see changed. Whatever mechanic they come up with, I think that that just feels weird to me. And my point being was that Cad gets blown up by his own bomb, Sabine gets blown up by her own bomb. Every other bomb in the game triggers, whether you detonate it or not by choice, and hurts you if you're in the range. A Fluttercraft flying over a melee, throwing bombs into a squad, into a melee that their units exist, has no fear of reprisal, either to the Fluttercraft or to their own units. That's a bit thematically weird. That we saw, and it happened in the games repetitively. Another thing that happened in Michael and I's game that again, it's just a mechanic that I was exploiting for the purposes of drawing attention that I think the mechanic is exploitative, is the fire supporting to get around poison tokens. I think I did it maybe 3 times in the game. And delayed getting poison.
And panic as well. Yeah, panic didn't come up in that game, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, so those were a couple things, and we all play the game of Legion, and we play Right Now Legion. I talk a lot about Right Now Legion. So Right Now Legion is that's how it is, and so that's Michael was able to throw bombs into melee and kill me and not kill him, and I was able to delay poison tokens and by fire supporting and not killing my clones. But I think Michael and I both came to the conclusion that both feel at some point to be a little outside of the maybe the intended game mechanics, and that's my opinion. I won't project that on Michael, but we did have that conversation. So thoughts on that, Michael, and then maybe thoughts on game 62.
Yeah, I understand the bomb or dropping grenades. That one bothers me less than you. I understand your point though. I get it. I won't say that yours isn't valid. That one in particular bothers me less. The fire supporting to get rid of panic and poison, though, to me seems to be a clear workaround of an existing set of game mechanics that are there for a reason, and they completely nullify those mechanics on your side. So if you are playing a poison list, if you are playing a suppression list, that basically says, nope, screw you, I'm playing a different game. You're not playing the same game at that point, which that irks me a lot more.
Right.
So
I think the best suggestion that I heard, and it wasn't necessarily specific a Legion suggestion, but it was a mechanic that exists in another game, was simply when you throw, and I'm not sure the premise of how it exists, but it came down to if you were to throw a bomb and there was a chance of hitting your own units and other units, you simply make a die roll. And in my case, would suspect that perhaps if you wanted to skew it a little bit more for the attacker, you could use a white dice and just say if any paint comes up, then it hits both. Um, and then you have a
Yep.
better than not chance of hitting just the enemy units. If you want to do a 50-50, you could use a red die roll. But Stan pointing out that they should have the same effect. I agree, Stan, and that's my point. That whatever if Sabine could throw her bombs and be immune to her own bombs, which I think would be, she's strategically detonating them. That to me feels like she should be safe. But since she is not, that's why I'm thinking that perhaps the melee option should not be there as well. But yeah, if there was
Yep.
some sort of
I do think
random,
though. So
go ahead.
sorry. One thing I'm going to clarify here is these are not bombs. Which is a subtle difference, but it is a difference because we also have things like mortars. Well, if you're standing within such and such a range of another unit that has a mortar attack, shouldn't you have the same type of thing if it's something that's going to explode? So again, it's a fine line, but there is a difference between a bomb and this. Again, subtle, but it's there, so, which is why I want to be a little bit careful about making a direct comparison to bombs.
Yeah, so I'm making the comparison based on the fact that it's a triggered effect, a known triggered
Yep.
effect to have an effect on the enemy. The confusion
Yep.
also comes in that it comes from a bombardier and it is an actual bomb he's holding. But Michael's referencing that the fact that it's not a ranged nor a melee attack, and so it's an entirely unique attack structure.
Yep.
So that would be why it has some different game mechanics, and there is going to be some parallels drawn to the vibro axe that the swoop bikes are going to be able to use, and so that's why that. But I would argue that perhaps the same effect could apply if you're zipping through with a swoop bike into a melee or
Yep.
over a melee with an axe. Perhaps you are not pinpoint accurate, but perhaps you're a Hawkeye. I don't know, but I'm just saying that I would love to see some mechanic where there may be some detrimental impact, because impacting a melee in any, and I say impact, not the keyword, but affecting a melee in any respect has almost been this sort of sacred item that we've had in Legion. Like you can't displace it, you can't, there's a number of things. Like it's really difficult to when you disengage, it's all your actions. Like it's a really hard interaction to get out of cleanly.
Yep.
And so, fighting in it, you have to be, in base contact with units. And so there's a number of things that are quite unique to melee. And this is just one of those things that I think maybe sits as a slight aside to that. So, but yeah, that's a conversation that we can certainly have. But that was our thoughts on that. So, X Todd say, would it work if there was a same type of attack and not different like that? Maybe in testing, this made it work better. Yeah, I'm not speculating that there wasn't a reason to come up with this. I guess just intuitively, I'm not picking up what the full intent is, and maybe because it's really the only example of overrun that we have right now. But again, when you bring in the vibro axe, now suddenly it's not just about bombs; it's really about that interaction directly in the melee. So it's about getting into that melee with maybe a precise attack. But to me, throwing bombs discreetly out of a flying wooden helicopter down into a melee, to me, I feel like it's going to be destructive to both sides.
Yep.
But um, such is life. So same thing, I guess, with deflecting. Deflecting just seems to always pinpointly take out the unit that shot at them. So there's those deflects are always precise, if you will. Let's get into
Well, back to
go
the
ahead.
game real quick.
Yeah,
So I,
sure.
I think this was the game we both said the dice were the most skewed.
For sure, 100%.
So I guess I won't say too much more, otherwise we'll definitely spoil the game. But
Yeah, there may have
there,
been
there were
like a
some
10
wild
dice
dice this
fire
weekend.
support.
This
So
one was the okay. Well, I guess if we're going that way, yeah. Somebody's bombs, speaking of, may have done more damage to him than to the 3 enemy units that were targeted with it.
mhm.
Um, so that was kind of the way the game went.
Yep. Yep, for sure. So, but I mean, had those bombs been, maybe if you're immune to your own bomb effects, that would have been handy there. So
Well, they still didn't do any damage the other way, so
that's fair. Everybody
yeah,
was immune to bomb effects apparently. So
yeah, pretty
yeah,
much,
and if
except
you
for me.
weren't, you just fire supported to be immune to bomb effects. So
Yeah,
there's that game mechanic as well. So yeah, so go check that one out. That is 62, I believe. 62. Yeah, I think that's right. That was
yep,
played in the morning. Yeah. So just in case you're kind of keeping track, the morning games were skirmish, and the evening games were 800 points. So we conveniently did that for you. So all right, let's get into the last one, Michael, and then we'll press through, and then we'll probably have about 30 or so for roundtable, which would be great. Um, the game 63, you and I played. You played CIS again. I'll just point out that Michael played
yep.
CIS. Uh, did you play Empire? No.
Nope, I played 2 games of Gar and 3 games of CIS, I believe.
Oh yeah, Gar. Yeah, you didn't play any Empire. So yeah, Michael
Because
had
I
yeah,
played 2 games with the Wookiee
yeah,
Fluttercraft.
CIS. What did I play this weekend? I played Rebels. I played Empire. I
Empire.
played Clones.
Yep,
And I didn't get to play any CIS. So look at that. Look at me go.
yep.
No CIS.
Because
All
the
right.
one game you could have played CIS, you let Anthony play it.
That's true. I should have been in Anthony's slot, but of course we wanted to get as many people on stream as possible. So Anthony
Yep.
was gracious and came over and played as he always does on Fridays. So, um, all right. But let's see here. Game 63, I played Empire. Michael played CIS. This was a fun one here, Michael. This was the
It
B2
was.
horde and me using a force user, which is a more rare occurrence than apparently vehicles in Ryan's meta. So yeah, if you want to go first on this one, go ahead. Forget what we played. What did we
Yeah, so
play?
I think I played the 6B2s and you played the 4 Ewebs.
What was our mission though? I was trying to
The
think about the mission on that one.
Blizzard.
Oh, intercept.
Intercept. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. So I think a couple of things on this table. This was again another example of remembering the rules, because we were talking back and forth about rules for Ewebs, what you can move through their standby, and you can see early in the game I screwed up and forgot that droidicas, which I haven't played in a long time, are vehicles, so you can't move through them. They have a normal standby, not an Overwatch, and those 2 things combined cost me early. I think the other thing that was interesting in the redux of this game, when Shawn and I were talking about it, was there is a big piece of terrain that allowed me to hide a lot of my army, which was very useful to me. But in doing so, it kept me too far away from the objective, and there was one smaller piece of terrain closer to the objective that Shawn was able to hide Vader behind, which had allowed him to close without taking much fire. Um, I think those were, yeah, without getting into spoiling anything, those were 2 things that impacted the game. Another close game, though, some wild dice in this game as well.
yep.
A little bit both ways, but I think skewed more one way. But aside from
On
that,
the
it was a close game. It
save
was,
side, I think this time instead of the offensive side. So yeah,
yep, exactly. I think the offense was low and the saves were high in both directions.
mm-hmm.
So
Suppression roll
it
offs
was
were very high, and
suppression roll off was very high.
yep.
Um, but no, it was still a fun game. It was a good game. It was close. Came down to near the end. So
Mm-hmm.
another good game. Hopefully people had fun watching it. So
Yeah, I think we've had we had good viewership for sure. The games
yeah,
were all uniquely different in I would say, like there was yeah, very different missions, different things happening, sort of action happening in different places. Some games were a little bit more mobile than others.
yep,
Um, and yeah, just there was no real, I didn't think there was any real kind of clear, point A to point B games on either side for any one player kind of thing. So we all probably had a point A to point B plan, but it's Legion, so along the way you got to make some detours and some adjustments. So yeah, so go check that out. They're all up on the channel. Got all the descriptions done appropriately now on there. So yeah, our apologies. There will be no Friday night fights this weekend, but we did give 5 streams for you in 3 days. So hopefully you guys can give us a little bit of a break, and we're also getting this one in for you as a nice little way to redux and recap on that. So, okay, that is 40 minutes. I have a couple more things I want to do, highlight specifically, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Stan. And a lot of dedication for the folks that came out and watched all the streams, even the ones when Stan was working in the middle of the day. So evidence to prove it is his participation in chat. So and Michael's okay because he was on vacation. So and some of his coworkers were tuning in. So we won't
Yep.
tell on them either. But I want to point out that we are on another pledge drive right now, raising money for things. Michael can. Oh, there's that fantastic song that I just don't want. That's what happens when you reset Ecamm. But Michael can attest that all the dollars that we raised for all the other things, that equipment is all here. It is all here. It is all in use. We used it all weekend long, and everything. I'm not sure if Michael wants to share this little bit of a story that we had yesterday. Michael thinks that yesterday the modem issue, that is really a network issue for the internet provider, somehow was triggered in a cascading type way because I said at the end of the weekend, "Wow, all the equipment worked great. It was yeah, the music's
It
fantastic,
was
Todd.
flawless.
Yeah, it was like everything worked perfect. We had no issues, no drops, no like we had everything was just humming along and great. And we were running it through its paces because I mean 2 streams a day on the equipment and all the the overlay work, blah blah blah, all went great, worked good. And because I said that, that's what happened yesterday. So while I don't believe in any of that sort of thing, we'll roll with that. And Michael said
That's because you don't work in tech professionally.
that's
You
that's
never say it's working flawlessly.
that's
Oh, I
fair.
didn't jinx it. Sean did.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't
I knew
jinx.
better than to say that.
Yeah, fair. I thought it went well. And I wanted to point out that we, like I said, we're doing that pledge drive. We are raising money for a PTZ camera. I think it's going to be cool. We do the best we can with the equipment we have, and I think we do an okay job, an average job, if you will. Each and every week, getting you guys the streams, but I am always looking for ways to improve, and I use that word always because that is quite accurate. I don't think I've been content with any one thing. Someday I'm going to share some nostalgic pictures of the first Friday night fights, and I'm like, so barf. But we're working to improve. So over the course of the weekend, we had some fantastic donations come in, and those donators are on the screen there: Bernard, Shawn, JD, Stan, Graham, Todd, Richard, Jacob, and Ryan. And I also wanted to draw attention to all the Patreon supporters that are on the right hand side. So all of those folks, their dollars, while they're not necessarily saying this is for the new camera for the equipment, for the studio rather, all those contributions are helping us do every single thing that we do, paying the Ecamm bills, paying the internet bills, all of that great stuff. Really, really does help us. We started off and there's that fantastic song just for Todd. We did start off with a very, very large goal, but I would say after one weekend of streaming and all the support that came in, um, getting to 20% of that goal in the on the first push was fantastic. So we are 20% of the way there for that 3K target on that PTZ camera. I talked to Michael about it. We sort of eyed up what I think and envision that camera doing and where it can go. Just adding to everything that we have. Moving a camera to have a dedicated dice camera if there's ever a world where we don't want to run the dice app, or just adding another angle is all going to be good. We don't really want to expand the camera number. That's not what we're really looking to do. We're looking to get more immersed in the action. So I think that we cover everything now. We just don't want to miss anything, and that's really what we're doing on this push. So the Terrain Studio 2019, every little bit helps. That's at gmail.com. Sorry, every little bit helps. We do appreciate that. We want to make sure we highlight those folks, and they did a great job this weekend helping us out. So thank you. We'll keep pushing, pushing to the goal. So really quickly, we want to thank our additional sponsors, Gamers Grass. They help us out with the tufts. I'm doing a tutorial just in a little bit on basing, so I'll be featuring some of these on that tutorial to start to base my Rebel Army. We also want to thank Bryant at Phoenix Games Australia for the donations, the stream help. He also has an online store, so if you're looking to get things a bit early, like swoop bikes, already out on the site, so you guys can grab them there. Go check them out. And then shout outs to my buddy Aaron at Back to Basics, hobby organization, acrylic paint racks, as well as doing some acrylic work here for the studio on our back wall. So that's what we have there. So jumping back in the booth, Michael, what do you think about just ripping some AMG news and then jumping into that roundtable for the last 30 minutes?
Well, let's do it. We
All
want to make
right.
sure we leave time for everybody but Ryan. So
Well, I got a special highlight on that. So, so news from the streets this week. We're gonna have a portion here for our Pally news in the streets. So he typically brings us stuff, but next week, excited because I think we'll have dice time. So we'll have Ben and Paul bringing us some actual Legion news from perhaps the pits of Gen Con, and Ben will be at the tables, so we'll get some real juicy knowledge for sure. I will talk more about it. I should be there, but I am here. Not that I regret being here, but I regret being here. And I'll get into that in a second. So a little AMG news here that was dropped, and going to kill that effect there. That is really going to be fantastic for every single scene. So AMG said that, and I'll just read, we are excited for the return of our Star Wars World events at Adepticon 2023. I will be there. If you haven't qualified yet, there's still time. You can view the current list of currently scheduled open qualifier events here on the AMG website. More events are still being added, so be sure to check back regularly and watch our social media for the open qualifier events that are as they are confirmed. So what that means is there is scheduled events and will be more. Gen Con inclusive has some world qualifiers. So if you do not have one that you didn't acquire like in 2019, you have a chance to get some of those and potentially be at Adepticon 2023. So that's cool. It also says AMG website, so I'm assuming that means their current website and likely be ported over to the new one, which we should be expecting at any point here. I think it's maybe mid to late August, I heard. So on the mini extravaganza. So good news if you don't have them, great. I'm glad to see that they're still adding some people. I think Worlds will be huge, which will be super fun. And I'm really hoping that there's a trickle down effect at these events, so that people who are at the events who already have tickets from years gone by are able to not burn tickets, so that we get as many people that want to participate there, and we can have as many qualified people as possible. So of course, if they want to put a cap on it, they can. But seemingly with new ones, they seemingly have not reached their cap yet. So that's cool. An event with 200 plus Legion players would be awesome, would be amazing. So I don't know how many qualifiers our Worlds tickets are up for grabs this weekend. But hopefully we have hopefully somebody that we know gets one, so that we can chat to them about it. So yeah, that being said, like I said, I was supposed to be at Gen Con this weekend, but due to a death in the family, my wife extended her stay. She only just arrived back this morning, so obviously you can do the math on that. Arriving back here and me being there at the same time doesn't necessarily work because one, I hadn't seen them for nearly 6 weeks, and two, our family pets, putting them in the kennels. We've done it, but it's not great for them. They're kind of homebodies. So Michael can attest. He met my wild pups when he
oh,
was
wonderful dogs.
yeah, when he's here. So my description of wild was tamer than Michael's mental image of wild. So um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so anyway, unfortunately I wasn't able to be there, but family first, and there will be another Gen Con, and there is only one family member. So but I messaged a few people today. I messaged Crabawk this morning, said, enjoy the time, have a great time there. And so I wish everyone who's there the best. I hope to hear all the great stories, bring me back something nice, and Gen Con next year. I was going to put this out. Michael doesn't know this, but I think, because it's 1 year basically to the day for next year, I think that anyone who's interested, we should organize a little Friday night fights group and make a big plan for Gen Con for next year. So I'm talking like some Airbnbs, a travel group, what have you, do some dinners, do all that stuff, and just start the planning now for a big group, and make big to do out of it for next year. So I was able to port out my tickets at Gen Con. By the way, convention staff, customer service, ridiculously fantastic. They understood my circumstance, rolled over my ticket, rolled over my wife's ticket, even though we were like, obviously we couldn't do it in advance because we didn't know about the death, but they were fantastic. But I think my plans hold. If anyone wants to get in there, I'm going to make a Gen Con chat in the Discord, and I want to start. We got 365 days to plan this thing, so I'd be down for it. So let's make it happen. By the way, full caveat: there may be several people who will put an asterisk on that. Do not travel with me. I will just make it to the event, so you don't have to go through the fiasco that is traveling with me, and I mean that in the nicest respect. That I'm not a bad traveler, I'm not disorganized or anything like that, but customs officials just they like me. They
Yep.
are friends of mine.
Also, if you're through customs security and they ask you what you're doing, saying going to Gen Con is fine, going to see friends is fine. Don't mention Shawn's name.
Yeah, just leave me well off the
Yep.
roster, the docket. Yep. Don't even mention me as a casual acquaintance. Yep,
Yep.
you'll be better off that. So yeah, so Gen Con this weekend, having real bad FOMO right now, but it is cool. If you have not been there, you should put it on your docket. If you've been there, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. If you're also having FOMO, I'm sorry that I'm triggering you right now, but it's happening. It'll happen again. It's fantastic. I look forward to it. I was looking forward to it, but I will get there again. So I still get LVO tickets booked, and I still get Adepticon tickets booked. So small consolation prize that I should get to another couple next year, I guess. So yeah, so there's that. And I got school that I need to be working on anyway, so maybe it's best I'm not there. I'd probably buy too many things too. Airbrushes. Every year I go to Gen Con, I'm always come back with more airbrushes, like I need them, like I paint. Um, it's a thing. So it's like I build models, just buy them, but don't do anything with them. So yeah, so that's happening right now. Look forward to that. So, all right, we've reached the time of the show, Michael. We'll jump over here. We'll do some roundtable. We got 28 minutes and 40 seconds. Rules for this, by the way, it's to a musical interlude as is the new style now. I totally intended to have that on every screen tonight. So discussion topics for tonight are going to be weekend feedback. So what you liked, what you didn't like, suggestions. If you tuned in, you wanted to be like, "Hey, I tuned in, awesome! I won a prize, great!" So I'm looking at you, Todd. Um, Michael, I think, messaged me and he said, "How are you going to get all the stuff there?" And I was like, "Don't worry, the sea crate's getting dropped off this afternoon, and the Hella lift is coming tomorrow." So we'll get all of that stuff. Yeah, Andrew, you see that up there? I see you're a little ahead of me, so I'll get to that in a second. So weekend feedback, that's the topic. That's one topic. The other one, it was unit surprises. So, but I'm not sure why I just didn't even spell that correctly. But did I spell it right? Surprises? Yeah, I think it's correct. But basically, that's Michael and I talking about it's not spelled correctly. You and I talking about things that we were surprised with, what we liked, what we were, I guess, caught off guard by in terms of a positive. Um, Also want to talk for you to tell us about things that you've played lately that you're like, wow, those are really good, or I'm kind of underwhelmed by these. And like Anthony was talking about Pikes and saying, hey, they just did really great at LSO, and then he was like, oh, just the Pikes that I played the other day, and they were like garbage. And I'm like, yeah, it was the exact same unit. So that's sort of on there if you want to talk a little bit about that. And then having fun in Legion, just general. Michael and I can spitball about the weekend. Like I mentioned on the stream, I was really sort of energized by playing all these new things and trying them out. And then just a week before Michael came, a weekend, I should say, before Michael came, Big Jace was in studio and I got him. He got bit by the Legion bug again, and we were having a ton of fun with Blizzard Force and kind of revisiting the Empire, and he was really enjoying his time with that, and seeing him enjoy something that he enjoyed before and just hadn't played for a while, that also energizes me. So and I know a couple of people are doing new games and intro games in their local communities, which is cool. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, that'll be fine. So yes, so if you come in, as I said, we only got about 26 minutes, so we'll probably get 4 or 5 guests in if we got the people. You'll have a 5-minute timer that'll start when you come in. If Ryan comes in, he has a 45-second timer. And so we'll kick him out and he can keep calling back in as many times as he wants, but he's going to be on a 45 seconds. So expect to have Ryan in short intervals. By the way, short caveat here. I do want to say in full seriousness that Ryan did a fantastic job this weekend for us. Came in, did a bunch of casting with myself or casted while Michael and I played. So we did appreciate that. He did great. He was great with the shout outs to the sponsors and all the folks that were in there. Engaged in chat and did a really good job. So if you want to come in and you want to give him a little accolade, I know that we don't want to pump his tires too much, but he did do a good job, and I don't think we can deny that. So there is that. So all right, so let me hit the. I'm not sure if I'm fully prepared for this, but let me hit the The link is in there. So like I said, any of those topics you want to call in, let us know about it. Link is up. So, all right, Michael, want to make a prediction on who we're going to get for callers tonight? I feel like
I'm gonna
we're gonna
guess
get one new
Pally and
caller.
Ryan.
One new caller. I'm
Yeah,
hoping
that
for
would be
tonight. If you
nice.
have not called in our
I,
show before, let's make it happen. All right, who we got coming in? All right, I can only get 2 people in at a time. So if you're in the queue, I will tell you when it's full. Currently, there's one. It's Andrew. I'm going to remove him from the green room. Just 1 second. Boom. Andrew's not a first-time caller, but we do appreciate having him in there. Just 1 second. We'll get you in. I haven't got the timer started yet for you. I'm going to put you here. And I think we can hear you. Can you hear us, Andrew? You're good?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, perfect. Yep,
Yep.
I got you on the timer.
Welcome back.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely want to start off by saying big thanks to the two of you, and Anthony and Ryan for all the events. I think it was a fun experience. I think for the whole FNF family, definitely a good. Felt like we were on vacation together for a weekend. Just all hanging out, shooting the breeze, talking Legion, just hanging out, having a good time. Definitely encourage. I know it's a lot of work doing 5 games in a weekend, but definitely periodically running similar events back again.
Yeah, well, I think we could do it. I think it's cool. We could definitely do it. I think if we actually had a few more people to sort of like mix in, I think that it would be a little less pressure for us to have to be both setting and playing at the same time. But I agree. I liked it. I think the pace was about as max as we could go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. For unit surprises, for me, really until I guess until the Shadow Collective dropped and all the mercenary stuff came out, I haven't ever really played Boba Fett. But getting him to play in Double Bounty List along with Bosk and the Empire, I really found out even with his subpar or par average command cards, I just find Boba a really durable unit, and just I find he's now that he's especially got was it, Arsenal 2 on his card with all. I find it pleasantly surprised with how effective he's been, especially with Sharpshooter 2 getting through cover and everything like that. He's getting an effective shot usually every time.
No, yeah, I agree. I think he was very, very effective. And as Michael mentioned, those dodges, like it's only a dodge, and it's only when he doesn't get an order. But I just felt that there was this there wasn't the urgency to get either Cat or Boba orders every single turn, because when you didn't, they were more survivable. And so that's what I was saying, when you present that kind of dual threat, they just felt like that was almost a shield for either one. And I do think that those little subtle changes they made with those 2 bounty hunters were correct.
Yeah, and I just really Todd's comment about the new upgrade cards that are coming out, new command cards. I was looking at his new 3-pip. I was like, man, I can't wait to take that in my Double Bounty List for sure.
No, that's yeah, it was fun, and that would fall under me having fun in Legion. Like I said, going back to that year 1 when I was playing a bunch of Boba, and Boba, Boba in a world of year 1 Legion is not the same as that Boba existing in now Legion, right? With the fire support pools and all that other stuff. So when the pools were smaller, those red dice with surges held up more often than not. They just don't when you're getting hit with like 10, 11 dice. And not that to say that he's just shrugging them off, but in my particular game, I will say that I had picked up 2 supplies with him, and he had 2 additional dodges in addition to the dodge he was taking. So he was a pretty tanky Boba, and as a result, he was able to do things well in that game. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we're having fun. And I know my local community in New Jersey grows like every month practically. We have a new person come in, and so we struggle to find space to fit people. The store itself is not set up for gaming. They used to be primarily a card game store, so we just throw like big 3x6 board HDF boards and throw a mat on top of it where we can find space.
Nice.
So yeah. And my cousin's coming over later this week. I get to teach her Legion. She's a big Star Wars fan and loves the droids, so I'm gonna walk her through a couple of demo games this weekend while she's over. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I think having a store run out of room is a good problem to have. Getting new people in the Legion is 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 tough, or it can be. I feel like sometimes what happens is the most people that you get in the Legion are already gamers, and so if it's not their first love or their first game, you're trying to ask them to split their hobby funds, right? And people only
Yep.
have so many. So I think that the battle forces will be a nice way. I think when they get out in the wilds and people start seeing those, or people start going in on like, picking up battle forces, but maybe only the units that they needed out of the battle force because they couldn't find them otherwise. And then the other half or the remnants of those start finding their way onto the internet quite cheap. I think that's going to be
Right.
another sort of residual effect that will probably bring more people into Legion. So just lately, I don't know if it's just me, but I've seen a lot of half core sets up for sale lately on the web. So
Yeah.
which is great. Anytime I see those, I always like try to name drop some people in there who are looking to get some more models, or
For sure.
somebody
For
you think
sure.
you can get in a Legion. So for sure. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that call in, Andrew, and I appreciate you enjoying the weekend. And yeah, we'll try to do some more in the future for sure.
Well, thank you guys.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thanks for calling in.
No problem.
All right, I'll just drop that. Like I said, that link's in there. If you guys want to call back in any of those topics, they're fine. Andrew did well; he stayed within the time, which was fantastic. Do appreciate that, and yeah. So, Michael, you heard it. Circle that on the calendar again, and I think he said 5 was not enough. I think he said 7 would be better.
I think everybody wanted more, but
yeah, no, for sure.
Also want to thank everybody that hung out this weekend. It was great not to be alone all weekend, and I think there were a couple streams we expected, hey, maybe we'll have 5 or 6 people in, maybe. Most of them, I think we had close to 30 people in most of the time. So
yeah, 30 plus on
almost
almost all of them. So there's 19 people hanging out. Like I said, don't shy away from. We'll do the round table. Still got about 20 minutes on the clock, and it's good to chat Legion. If you don't want to talk about something that's on there, these are suggested topics, but they're nice to sort of springboard into at least a themed conversation from the weekend. So
yep.
I know.
So while we're
go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say while we're waiting for somebody else to call in, I'll mention unit surprises. So we obviously talked quite a bit over the last couple of weeks about me playing Fluttercrafts and having a blast with them. I was surprised how many people this weekend and again tonight have said either I'm buying a Fluttercraft, I'm putting Fluttercrafts together, I'm working on mine, I'm definitely going to try it. It's great to see people finding it as exciting as I'm finding it, I guess, and wanting to give it a shot.
No, absolutely. I know that having fun in Legion for me, Michael saw my pile of plastic that I've been assembling here over the last 3 weeks. It's growing. I mean, I still have more things to go. More Shadow Collective. Discovered that I missed some Empire boxes, so I got to cycle back and assemble some more Chads and Beckys that I had still sitting in there. But I've been having a lot of fun just getting everything on the table, and then from that, I'll get to that, X Todd, for sure. You should have came on and asked specifically. I would have answered that question for sure. But I have been really, really looking at those units when I'm putting them together, and not only just theorizing around like what it's going to look like when Jace paints it, and then I get to do all the base work on it, but also what kind of forces can I make with that? Like I've been looking at shore troopers and be like, you know what? I know shore troopers are popular, but I didn't I didn't get a chance to play them. I missed that window. I wasn't playing Empire, right? So
Yep.
I'm seeing everyone play Pikes and Black Suns, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to get into that. And I know there's going to be a time when I'm going to play Black Suns. I'm just waiting for the swoops to come out because I want to get in that. My AA5s are getting painted right now. And so just assembling the plastic's been fun for me because I'm just envisioning
Nice.
how much fun I'm going to have in Legion. And so, and I know I'm going to paint up my droids. I picked up some paint. I didn't get to, like I said, Michael and I planned to do some hobbying. I picked up a few paints to try that Brendan had suggested on our Discord, but I didn't get a chance to do that either. So I'm looking forward to that. So, yeah, pile of potential, not a pile of shame. Absolutely, Andrew, you are correct in that. Yeah, so my thoughts on Ewebs. Okay, I will be. It's not a Ryan answer, but I will tell you this. I think that Ewebs did exactly what I thought they were going to do in that game. Um, oh, but yeah, I'll answer the question in a second, Matthias. So really, really, the and Justice is going to call in here. Let me pause. Let me get Justice in on this, and then I will answer that. I promise. So, and if I got to extend the time, I will ask for forgiveness. I don't want to miss out on these folks calling in here. If I got to extend the time, I will ask for forgiveness. I don't want to. I think I might get feedback from your end, Justice. Do you have a?
Oh,
I
let me
don't
see.
want to. I think I might get feedback from your end, Justice. Do you have a?
Oh, let me see.
I think I might get. Whatever you did, you got it.
Did that work?
I think it might work.
Okay.
It's better. It's at least it's more quiet. So perfect. All right. Well, go ahead. Well, thanks for calling in. First time caller, long time listener.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy for everything you guys did this past week. It honestly helped me get through my pile of shame. So thank you.
Potential.
Yeah, pile of potential. No, it was a good time. I got through one fluttercraft so far after watching Michael use them, and I was like, man,
Nice.
I gotta start using those.
Nice.
So I just finished the second one and about to get the third.
And I'll just let the echo play. What type of player are you? Like what faction are you specifically playing most of the time?
Sicko.
Are you still able to hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Sicko. Sorry, I'm out in the boonies.
Are you still able to hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you. Yep. But I played Gar. Sorry, I'm out in the boonies.
Are you still able to hear us?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe I'll interact with
but
you
I
in
play
chat,
Gar.
Justice, because I don't think you're getting what we have here. But thanks for calling in. We appreciate that.
Sorry, I'm out in the boonies. See you guys.
That was I think he was not getting what we were putting down. I appreciate him calling in nonetheless. So,
Yeah.
Gar player basically
Appreciate
echoing
that.
what Michael had said. Thank you for that, Justice. Putting together his first Fluttercraft, which is fantastic. Just jumping back quickly to the Andrew's helping him out there. I think he was just getting the feedback from the YouTube stream. The Ewebs, I think, performed precisely how I thought they were going to. Basically taking up field of fire and doing no, you're good, Justice. Don't apologize for that. That's all good. Taking up a nice Overwatch potential for that point, but the problem with the Eweb is while they don't have diminishing returns when they take damage, Michael was just able to be like, okay, I'm just going to put this pool into you. And the pool didn't have to be that big to force damage into me. And the problem with the Eweb to be effective is I had to be in either the range band that like of 3, or I'm not able to shoot, move, or move, shoot. And so there's not really an ability to shoot and scoot really with them at all. And so what Michael was able to do is basically just point and click, and work his way through. Did it take 1 or 2 activations per time? Yeah, if my saves were great, fine. But I don't think like I was scaring Michael away with the Ewebs. I don't think they were overly dominant. Maybe it matters when I'm shooting into with activations that have 9 health and an armor point to kind of shrug it off. Maybe they weren't as impactful as they would be against something smaller. But overall, I didn't find the Eweb to be terrible. But I think the biggest disadvantage was you saw what I was doing with my snowtroopers, or potentially you didn't if you didn't watch the game. But the shoot and scoot, the shoot and move to an advantageous position, the in and out of cover, everything else on the table seemed more survivable than the Ewebs. And I think that's part of the premise of that list is to bring a lot of stuff forward and lose some things here and there. If you're shooting at them, you're not shooting at Vader and snowtroopers, and potentially that's where you need to be. But Michael did a good job. He shot what he could see. He shot what was shooting at him. And so while I didn't think they were terrible, I don't know if it's just not my style, but I just felt the stationary aspect of them was a little bit of a liability, to be perfectly honest. So that's my thought on that. So, what Matthias was just asking, where can we see the list or the streams for that tourney? If you go to the TerrainStudio YouTube channel, or if you type in Friday Night Fights, all of the videos are there. Go to the live link tab. It should appear in the video tab, but if it doesn't, just go to the live one. And all of them are there. 63 through 59, I think, is what we played on the weekend. And as soon as you go in, within the first few minutes or so, the lists pop up, and we have a nice little list screen. Kind of shows you what the lists look like and what we're playing for that particular round. So that should all be there. So in fact, let me just bring down one real quick, and I'll show you what one of those might look like. This won't be. It'll look something like that right there. So if you go into each of those, there, Michael put the link in there for you. But if you jump into to each of the streams, we'll have a list. That'll be the list that I was playing in the game I was just talking about there. So yeah, we'll give you a breakdown. All the upgrades are there, points are there, and all the activations are there. So yeah, that's where you can find them. All right, Michael, we got a few minutes. We'll put that link. Thanks for that link there. Thanks for calling in, Justice. Yeah, we'll get you sorted out, Justice. So next time you call in, that's not an issue for you. So. But yeah, if you got any more final thoughts for Michael and I, we had a great time. Like I said, I think that was a lot of Legion in a short little span, but it was good just to think about all the different lists. We were kind of like trying to remember all the upgrades and be like, oh yeah, we have this and that. And I don't know, I forgot like Padme had Inspire on there, and I think what was another keyword. I think I forgot in one of our games. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't use Rebel Nimble Dodge on any of these. I just took their dodge tokens off, and
yep, I forgot the HQ uplinks on the droidicas.
Yeah, you forgot the HQ
completely
uplinks
forgot
on
they were there.
droidicas. You forgot retinue dodges, I think, on the first time you played Magdas, but then we remembered in the second game, and then and that's another thing too. I was saying to Michael, I was like, I'm so busy right now trying to remember all the things I'm doing. Of course, I know that Magdas have retinue dodge. I could have told you that 100 times, and if I was watching Michael play as opposed to playing Michael and playing, I would have picked up on that. But because I'm just right in there, just trying to learn my own list at that particular moment, I wasn't even picking up on that. And it's just like, wow, rote memory is great, but only when you're focused on activating that, right? So yeah, there was lots of that this weekend. So I can appreciate that stuff. So and it was more of a case of us forgetting that we had things as opposed to not knowing. I think we did pretty good on a few things. You want to talk, Michael, just while we're waiting here in limbo? No doubt, Stan, for sure. Learning the game, I can have a great appreciation for someone who does not have any keyword knowledge and trying to come into this game and learn not only Legion fundamentals, but then all those keywords and all those things that break the fundamentals of the game. So,
yeah.
Do you want to talk about that displacement interaction with the Fluttercraft, Michael? Just because we were deep into the rule books in terms of how we came up with the justification that we had, and how that was just an interesting interaction.
Yeah, so for anybody that didn't watch the game, the interaction was there was a squad of 8 B1s on top of a building that had room for pretty much exactly 8 B1s. And I landed a Fluttercraft on top of them with a compulsory to displace them. But they had nowhere to go. So then there were questions of, is it legal? What do you do to displace them? All those sorts of things. And we went around and around and back and forth. And it was actually a pretty big deal, not just for the displace, but because that kept my Fluttercraft in range 1 of the AAT so that the big guns couldn't be used on it. Whereas if I had to go somewhere else, I would have ended up at range 2 and taken a big shot. So we went around for quite a while, eventually figured out there is a ruling that says that you are supposed to, if possible, keep the unit on the same level. In this case, because they were displaced, there was no room for them to go on the same level. We moved them down to the nearest adjacent location and cohered them there. So to the best we know, to the best of the rulings on the forum, that is the correct way to do it. But it took us a little while to get there and a while to figure out. So.
Yeah, it's pretty unique that you would not have the ability to remain on the same level. And same level
Yep.
could be, when you're on a 2D plane, it may you got like some barricades and things like that. Like maybe perhaps they're just slightly higher or moved into a piece of terrain that's a little more unlevel. But this was a particular case where they were straight up moving down the entire height of a building. So what you would normally need to use, and I'm not sure if that we measured that building. I think it was just
Yep.
under height.
It was height 2.
It was height 2. Never mind. So
Yep.
not only that, but you wouldn't even be doing that in a single action typically. So it was just a really unique scenario that we encountered. But getting back to the fun in Legion, running into these different scenarios, whether you're playing or experiencing them as a viewer, is really kind of cool. And we have a collective think tank, which is fantastic that we can get into those things. So
Yeah.
they do come up from time to time, little interesting scenarios. Um, and just using new units will often present those too. Michael, we talked a lot about emplacement troopers and how they have a whole series of special rules, and then Michael's is using droidicas, and droidicas, while smaller than the emplacements I was using in terms of base size, end up having full blockage versus the emplacement troopers, which don't. So there's not necessarily these parallels between size and model and look and faction. Like there's all kinds of little nuances that are within the rules that make for interesting interactions, and sometimes you agree or disagree with them, but that leads to a whole other conversation about how could you improve this or what would you change and that sort of stuff. So again, you play right now Legion, but there's always room to have perspective conversations about future Legions. So there's that. Learning line of sight from vehicles has been an interesting experience for me, for sure. We just had a conversation in our local group about what different vehicles present for cover. Like, what does a walker versus a repulsor? What does a ground vehicle do versus a speeder and all those sort of things. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of things to learn there for sure. So. Just out of curiosity, while we got a few minutes left, I would be interested to know of the 17 people that are currently in our group there. Why don't you sound off if you managed to walk away with something this weekend, whether it was skirmish cards, alt art cards, card sleeves, Dianoga scenario card. What else did we give away? Alt art. So command hands. If you happen
hands, skirmish. I don't remember if you said that.
Yeah, skirmish decks. Yeah, just out of curiosity, how many people are tuning in? And like I said, we gave away a ton of stuff. We have a ton more to give away. I did put a pretty good dent in what I have, but I still have more, and I'm always acquiring additional stuff. In fact, I actually just purchased a few alt arts yesterday from a friend of mine in Poland to just straight give away. So I just spent money to buy something to give you guys in a future stream. So Canadian Bear says he can't get his mic to work, but thanks again for the awesome weekend. No worries, man. No worries. Bernard came away some Leia cards. Yes, he did. Andrew came away with a Dianoga set. I got a Mandalorian alt art, so that's cool from Justice. Chronic Canuck got a Dianoga set. Giveaways were awesome, and yes, I might have won some. Stan did, in fact. Yes, X Todd, my shipping crate was pre-weekend. Yep, that's fair enough. Well, Todd, you won. I'm not sure if Todd got any things on the weekend, but he definitely he had the heaviest package that I mailed because I just had to do some weights on them. So, Canadian Bear got some. Shawn Death got some. Yeah. So Brian. Okay. Oh, Brian, yeah, just joining us. I saw that, Brian. Sorry to hear about the health issue, but great that you're back. Hopefully that means that you're on the mend somewhat. But yeah, no, appreciate having you back in. So you missed a ton if you weren't here on the weekend. But the good news is, Brian, that there's like literally 5 streams. So I'm going to guess probably like close to 12 to 15 hours worth of Legion. So if you're not tired of hearing about Michael and I's exploits now, you can go watch them in real time. And there's all kinds of games there. We did a pre-stream, and then we did the 5 streams here in studio. So yeah, that's what happened. So well, that Michael pretty much concludes us for the night. I think we're gonna be able to stick in that time, which is good. People are also pooped from the weekend, tuning in for all those hours of enjoyment. So we'll have to talk some other people into to coming out and doing another weekend for sure. So
yeah, And we've got 30 seconds left, and your family was nice enough to let me use their house while they were gone, so I'm going to reciprocate and say you go spend some time with them. Get out of here.
That's
Go.
true. I do definitely
Shoot.
need to do that. So Stan was saying the main thing was appreciating you and Michael doing the heavy lifting. Yeah, it's mostly me. Just kidding. I was just doing all the computer work. Michael works with computers, and I was somehow the guy behind the machine. So, and Ryan doing the casting, as I echo that as well, Stan, and we did appreciate him doing that. So, yeah, you have a ton to catch up on, Brian, for sure. There's a bunch of stuff. I mean, we've been casting pretty regularly, so. So Michael and I and all the guys, we will not be here Friday, so you'll get a break from us. Tuesday we'll be back. Tuesday's exciting. I like these launch shows. They're fantastic. Michael will find out if he gets to play in my group again.
I don't.
Since I know he's running no, you don't get to play in my group again, or no, you don't want to play in my group again.
Yes and yes.
fair enough. So yeah, we had a
because I got bumped down. So
yeah, Alderaan was
it was a good group.
Yeah, it was a good group. It was just a rough go in there. So us Alderaan folks. Stan was.
That's
also
okay. Those good fun games.
Shout out to Alderaan. So yes, Tuesday, come and tune into it. We'll do the announcement. If you are not in the league and you want to join, there's still some time. You got till the 5th. Go sign up. I think there's like 25 people in there currently, so it's down a little bit, maybe like 5 or 6 people. But that might just be people waiting till the last minute, because usually that happens too. Stan called us bullies. I think he's mostly referencing Michael, because he played first. I think he played you first.
I don't think so.
Did he not play you first?
I think he played me second. I could be wrong.
He played me first. That's right. He's referencing me. That's fine. Yeah. Seems about right. So yeah, come back Tuesday. I'm excited. We'll announce. Michael gets to play Fluttercraft, so he gets that crutch. I don't get spiders, so I lose my crutch. So I'm gonna have to come up with something super interesting to play. So maybe I'll just go Gar standby sharing shenanigans with Padme and avoid all the poison tokens. So, or maybe I'll just go eight rad cannons. There's that too. So yeah, well, I'll think of something. I'll think of something. It's the Wild West out there. So yeah,
my list is submitted. So
okay.
I bet you can't guess what it is.
Look at Michael go. I'm pretty sure I can, and if I can't, I'll go get Pally to confirm me that it's a 3 Fluttercraft. So why people we banned Fluttercrafts? There's barely any barks in it, and we somehow went Fluttercraft. Somebody voodoo magic, it was witch magic or wizardry or something that allowed that to happen. So is there a good tutorial on how to play the program? I would say there is a tutorial. I don't know if it's good, but Todd, 100% honest, if you went to the Discord and you just like asked any number of people to like walk you through, myself included, we could jump into TTS, and like if I don't do computer games at all, and I was able to figure it out. And so if you wanted to ask or learn, even if you didn't want to join the league, but if you want, I encourage you, because it's another way to get some more games in. People can help you out for sure. So yep, for sure. So I'll extend that to you, and like I said, it's a good community there, so people can walk you through. But yep. Was the ban list completed? Yes, Bernard, it is. It's on the Discord, but I can tell you off the top of my head before I go, there is no spiders, no bark speeders, there is no dewbacks, and no...
Is it Tauntauns?
Tauntauns, correct. Tauntauns got a timeout, as Stan had said, so yep. I think he also followed it. Nobody puts Tauntauns in the corner, but that might just be me paraphrasing, but I think he said Tauntauns get a timeout, so yeah. So, yeah, for sure. And there you go. Justice is saying he sucks with tech, but you sure you can do it, Todd. So, yeah, and then Canadian Bears got it. All right, guys, that'll conclude us for the show. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks a lot, Michael, and thanks for coming up. And hopefully get some rest now that you're back to work. So,
I'm working on it. So, catching up.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Cheers.
Yep. Bye.